when I first reached out to you, I was on an extended mat leave, and it was kind of getting close to the end of it. And I was just at that point of just being like, hey, I've talked to dietitians and nutritionists, and nothing's really working. And I'm just kind of frustrated with the way that my life is right now. And I just want to talk to somebody and just, spend the money and just see what happens, basically.
Yeah. So I remember before we even decided on coaching, we were back and forth on Instagram through just the DMs, you asking a couple questions, and kind of picking my brain through my stories as to like, why this, why that, why do you recommend this? And that initial reach out, why did you decide to take that leap of faith and be like, okay, I need help and I want to do this now?
So it was basically just, I get chronic migraines and headaches all the time. And I was constantly sick, and I was talking to, other people, and they were like making suggestions of, like, oh, do this and do this and do this. And it was like, okay, none of those things fit in my life. None of those are things that are like realistic, that like I can do those long term, like to tell me that, like only eat, like one meal a day and the rest of your meals you're going to be drinking. That's not something that I can do. It's not something that I want to do. And then just, I was DMing you and just going back and forth of like, hey, like, why do you do this? And this sounds like really interesting, and just wanting to know more information, and having you like answer the questions honestly, and, not just saying like, oh, you have to sign up with me first, was a major help.
Yeah, it shows more of a genuine approach to coaching versus like, hey, I'm not giving you any information until you spend money on me. So how did you feel pre-coaching and going into it? Were you nervous? Were you scared? How were your energy levels? Tell me a little bit about that.
I was super, super nervous. I have major anxiety all the time. So I was really, really nervous. Like, I'm always nervous starting something new, even if it's something that is sort of like, hey, I've actually done this before. It's still just like, no, it's nervous. And I had no energy, which was obviously a major concern because I have a toddler, and it was like, I have to be able to keep up with her and her running around and everything. And I want to be able to do things with her. So that was kind of a major, this is why I'm here.
Yeah, I love that. It's a major why. And I remember you had saying that you had tried other programs or trainings, nutrition, ways of eating prior to. Talk a little bit about that.
Okay. So prior to joining with you, and before, COVID was a thing,
yes,
I was going, I was going to a gym regularly, like 2, 3, 4 times a week. And like I would walk there, and then I would do my training, and then I would walk home. So I was getting in training and cardio every day, and like did that for years and just wasn't seeing any results.
Right. And that's
I wanted to see.
Yeah, that's awesome that you noted that. And then as you trusted the process and working with me. So let's go into working with me as a coach. What has your experience been like working with me? What results and lessons or positive changes have you had since working with me?
Well, positive changes has been the fact that I am currently on 0 medications.
And if you don't mind
major.
sharing, how many medications were you on pre?
I don't know. I'd ballpark it around like 6 different ones for just different things going on in my life. And I managed to get that down to 0. I mean, I recognize like it might not like always get like that, of course, but I'm at the point where like I'm feeling more in control of being able to choose what I do and what happens.
Yeah. And where do you see that a lot of that progress has come from in terms of coming off those medications?
Definitely my nutrition. Because I had an iron deficiency after having a baby. Everybody has an iron deficiency, and mine just stayed low permanently for more than a year until we started working together. my baby was more than a year old when we started working together. So that's when my iron like finally went to a spot where my doctor was like, yeah, you're good. We can stop taking this medication.
And then like that was a trickle effect. Like every time you saw your doctor, it's like, okay, we can downshift this medication or take you completely off it, see how it works, right? So
Yeah.
I want to note, did we even supplement with anything at the beginning?
No, it was literally just get used to this, like eating this, weighing out your food. Not even weighing out my food in the beginning. It was literally just get used to eating these specific things in your day.
Yeah. And I wanted to note that because a lot of people at the beginning, they typically are like, okay, I need a multivitamin, I need omegas, I need this, this, and this. It's like, you're making it so complicated. Like, get your sources from food. And then we can dial in when we look at your blood work, if there's deficiencies, and then we can maybe supplement with something. And now we have more supplements that just supplement your diet. Right? You would agree?
Yeah.
And supplement the things that are actually required in a natural way. So, like for example, the magnesium, that will supplement you in a more natural way versus like a medicinal like prescription from your doctor, right?
Yeah.
So, in terms of training, what have you learned throughout your experience with me? Because it's changed quite some time, like every single time, actually, like every month is changing, right?
Yeah. I've realized like I get bored easily. So
Yeah.
I need to constantly like be consistently like trying a new thing, switching things up. Um, Part of that is like obviously with COVID, like not going to the gym. So I've had to figure out new things to do at home and trying to find different like dumbbells and things so that I can do stuff at home, but also realizing like I can do a workout without weights, just body weights.
And what is my number one priority when it comes to your training?
Um, the priority is always to get the training in before cardio, but to get
Yeah.
nutrition in before training.
And to enjoy it, because once you're like, Jas, like this isn't happening, what do we do?
You stop.
Yeah.
And if you stop, then you're just like it's like going in a maze and like you're just going in circles because you're not doing anything.
Yeah, so it feels defeating. So now we found a training regimen that works for you, things that you like, and guaranteed that's going to change, right? Like we all grow, we're all going to get different goals, and COVID eventually will stop. So as you've gone through your progress or through your journey, we've changed not only your nutrition but your training. So let's talk about the nutrition lessons that you've learned, because nutrition has been a big aspect of your transformation, from very start to finish. So I want you to correlate nutrition and the mindset around it.
Well, the mindset I guess would be being like not being negative with myself and not being negative about food. Like it's not that I can't have something, it's that I don't want it is definitely major. But it's also just the way that I set up my day too. Like for me, it's breakfast, lunch, dinner. That's my day.
Mhm.
And just making sure that like I get all the proteins in and the fats and the carbs and being able to have carbs was major,
Mhm.
no cutting out a food group.
Did you feel restricted at all during this our journey together? It's been about 9 months, over 9 months, 40 weeks.
I know in the beginning it felt that way, but just because it was like a massive like change of, taking out all the foods that I was eating that I shouldn't have been eating and in like quantities that I really shouldn't have been eating and just like letting my body get used to that adjustment. That was a major, like that was where the restriction came in and like the
Okay.
frustration of like, oh, I hate this.
Yep.
But overall it's been good.
What made you continue and trust the process?
Because you kept like, every week we take check-in photos. No necessarily weigh myself every week, but every week we take the photos and every week you would email me back and you would show me like, see, this is a change from, last week to this week, from 6 months ago to today.
Hmm.
And that has really, really helped because it's sort of like, this is my life. This is my body. I don't always see those changes.
Yes.
but you can see them. And then when you point them out to me, it's sort of like, okay, this makes it a lot easier.
And then, correct me if I'm wrong, you look at that progress, whether it's physical or whether it's like a mental shift, and you're like, okay, I'm not going back to that. Like, let's move forward. I see progress. This is working. That's my motivation to get through my day today.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, what skills have you learned in nutrition, or what have you learned about nutrition from the very beginning up until where you are now?
Um, the big thing I would say is that you have to like really plan out your proteins
Did you
because
know even how to balance macros before? Were you familiar with macros, or was it a
um
new journey for you?
I had heard the term, but nobody had ever really sat down and like explained it to me. So I was just kind of like, okay, it's a thing, right? It's like a fad diet. I don't know what it is. So yeah, it wasn't until you had explained it to me, and you'd explained it to me after we'd already been working together for a while, of slowly implementing it, of like, okay, you're gonna weigh out your foods and you want to have like this much protein in your day. But we'd already set out like these are the different foods that I'm going to eat in a day. And they were foods, foods that I actually like. It wasn't like, okay, all of a sudden you're gonna add in this whole new thing that you've never eaten before and you don't know how to cook.
Yeah. And the learning tools that come with that is, do you, reflecting back versus now, how do you feel about reading a nutrition label? How do you feel about making your own meals now?
I feel so much more confident. And I also feel like I get out of the kitchen a lot faster because it's sort of like, okay, I know exactly what I'm going to cook up for dinner today, which is going to be dinner tomorrow. So, right there, I'm cooking 2 meals, but I'm getting it done faster because I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. And in terms of pre-Jazz versus coaching, what positive changes have you seen or felt or noticed yourself through these last 9 months?
Well, I would say definitely the mindset change
Yes.
of like, if I'm like helping cooking up a meal like for my toddler or something, and like I eat like a little bit extra. Before, it would have just started me on like a whole path of just like overeating for like the rest of the day. But now it's just kind of like, oh, that happened. Okay, let's move on to the next thing.
Yes, that I want to acknowledge that as a huge win, because before it would be like I effed up and now I'm going to go down the binge hole. And now we're like the last binge, like actual binge classification. When would you say that was?
Um, Gosh, I don't even, it's been a long time.
Right?
Yeah.
And I want to acknowledge you right now, because that's a huge win. I know that was an issue to begin with, right? It was very hard to get out of that mindset. We had a couple barriers at the beginning, but moving forward, like that's not in your future. Do you agree?
Yes.
In terms of, let's talk a little bit about any barriers that you've gone through along the journey, and you can feel, if you feel comfortable, talk about any of the barriers that you've had and how you've overcome that together.
Barriers would probably be like, so family meals are really important to me. Just getting together, as family, and like sitting down and having a big meal, and suddenly feeling like, like, oh, I want to eat what everybody else eats, and I'm frustrated that I'm not, and trying to, and now instead of saying like, well, I want to eat what you eat and I don't want to eat like this planned meal, now it's more like, I want to eat this meal that I planned out because I know that I will feel better. Or saying, hey, I'm going to eat what everybody else eats, even knowing like I'm not going to feel super great later because it's got something in it that, I'm intolerant to, but I'm going to make that choice.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're more kind to yourself, and like it's okay to enjoy your your fun meals and not track sometimes. Like now we're kind of shying away from the scale. I know it was also a barrier in your workplace when you are working from the office, right? Because people notice things and they see what's going on and they see your transformation. So it's like motivating, but it's also uncomfortable. So how have you overcome those barriers?
Um, it's definitely a bit of a struggle at the beginning because it was kind of like, hey, like it's great that you're commenting on this, but also I feel
Yeah.
super awkward that someone is commenting on my body.
Yeah.
um, so that's been a bit of a mental struggle. But it's also just it's one of those things where I'm just kind of like acknowledging like, oh, thanks, and I'm just gonna move on now.
I feel like now you take, before I was like, okay, great, you're noticing, but now I feel like you take a lot of pride in the work that you've done. Is that something fair to say?
Yeah, I feel like I have worked really, really, really effing hard.
Yes. Lots of work,
Yeah,
lots of
yeah.
education and intentional work, internally, physically. I want to acknowledge you for that, but I also want to acknowledge you for the fact that you were vulnerable in the sense and you were able to get through these barriers, because this is why I can relate to my clients, is because like I've been there, and like seeing you get through that, it's like I watch you grow. So I'm so proud of you.
You.
So, what did you enjoy most about working with me thus far?
I'd say definitely just like relearning about nutrition. It's kind of like you're unlearning all those habits that you learned growing up, that I learned growing up,
Yeah.
and just relearning how to eat properly. And so that I can, then turn around and teach it to my children.
Yes, that's a huge why. So, how has this affected other people around you? That being friends, family, your spouse, your toddler?
Well, so not every meal, of course, but I'd say probably like 75% of our meals we sit down to eat together. They're whatever I'm eating, my family is eating like a variation of.
Right. Yeah. You just accommodate it now to your
Yeah.
plan.
And it's a massive, massive win. And like I made the switch, really early on from drinking like regular soda to drinking diet soda. My husband made that switch with me. And like we don't have like chips and stuff in the house, or not very frequently for him. So he made that switch too of like, you're not eating it, so I'm not going to eat it either. And like I didn't tell him to do that. I don't care if
Yeah.
it's like, this is your snack. If you want it in the house, you have it in the house. But he was like, no, no, if you're not going to have it, then I won't have it either. So that's been like
Yeah.
majorly helpful.
And that goes to show like how much support really means throughout a fitness journey. Not everyone has that, and some people have it better, some people have it worse, but the key is to have some sort of support system, whether that be your coach, me, or whether that be your family, to make sure that you stay on the right track. I said something about your check-ins this past week, saying like your safe counsel. So don't just reach out to someone that's going to be like, hey, just don't eat like an ass, right? Like, or not support you in the way, or like the people that'll say like it's just a salad, like it's just an apple. Like you want to reach out to your safe counsel that are going to support you and get you towards your goals. So, and I think you have a really good support system at home, and it goes to show because you flourished since we started coaching with one another. So, takeaways from coaching with Jas. How do you feel about moving forward on your own after these 40 weeks, approximately 9 months? We're downshifting from coaching, so we're not necessarily like weekly check ins, we're at bi weekly check ins. How do you feel now that we're letting you become more of a free bird?
I'm feeling really, really good. And also like I'm just feeling like I like my mind is stronger than like my stress or like my cravings or anything. Like if I start just like craving a random food, like I know that I can like handle it and let it pass, or I can actually just plan it into my day that like, oh, I'm gonna
Yes.
have whatever this, particular food is.
I'm
And
excited for you because
yeah,
it's more of a learning experience, right? It's like, okay, like I'm not just like cutting ties with coach, right? I'm like slowly working my way out of it because this is lifestyle, but you're still working towards progress. How have your goals changed throughout this journey? Because I know we signed up for a 3 month commitment, but here we are at 9 months. Did you think that you'd be spending 9 months plus with me?
no, no, I honestly thought that it would be 3 months and we'd be done.
Right?
Um, yeah, it's been um No. So I think like in the beginning, like all of my goals, like looking back, they were all very like weight centric of like, I want to lose this much weight and I want to get down to this size. And now I'm sort of like, yeah, the weight is great, but I also don't really care what I weigh, or I try really hard to not care
Hmm.
and just be more mindful of like my clothes are fitting, my clothes aren't fitting. But like it doesn't matter like what size my clothes say because clothing sizes are really, really messed up.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah.
What are some milestones that we hit that really hit you hard and we're like, oh my God, like this is amazing. I'm super proud of myself because I know we've had quite a few of those. What are some that come to your mind right now where you're like, that was a huge moment for me?
Um, so when we started, I was not able to, you talked about like for fitness clothes and stuff, like different recommendations that you'd had. One of them was Lululemon. And I
Yes.
was sort of like,
Right.
oh hey, I can't wear their clothes. I am like larger than their clothing sizes. And then we hit that goal very quickly of let's fit into those clothes.
Right. So your goals then were like, what next? You were like, you never got to a point where you're like, okay, I'm done with this. It was like, okay, what next?
What's the
And
next goal?
have you achieved everything that you set yourself out for at the beginning of this journey? Would you say that you've achieved and accomplished what you set out?
Yes. I feel like I've pretty much reached all the goals. I think there was one that I had set of like a weight goal, which was literally just me making up a number because I was like, I don't know where to start.
Yeah, yeah. And moving forward, where do you look to take your progress? Because we're going to continue our progress, but where are you looking ahead now?
Where I'm looking ahead now is more focused, like instead of being like, oh, I want to hit like a certain weight goal, is more like I have, more set goals for like mindfulness and like my attitude and like more mental. Yeah.
Awesome. So, what tools, strategies, and knowledge has this coaching experience provided you? Because I always mention like we're just adding tools to your toolbox, whether that's organization, meal prep, macros, and then intuitive eating. What tools do you have in your toolbox to make you progress moving forward?
Definitely the intuitive eating of being like, hey, this is how I set out my day. But if I'm in the middle of eating a meal and I'm kind of like, hey, I'm really full, don't keep eating. It's like I can put this in the fridge and if I get hungry later, I can finish it then, but I
Mhm.
don't have to finish it right now.
Do you think you would ever see yourself at this point?
No, no, this is the goal that I had set for like a year after a year of working at it.
Now, do you feel that, so since looking back and seeing all that you've accomplished, do you feel that you've discovered more of a potential as to like now you have the tools in your toolbox to continue your progress and the sky is your mind is the limit to get what you want out of whatever goal you set? Would you agree?
Absolutely.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. That's what I do is I help you guys unlock your potential. I see where you can go. I give you a realistic plan and then we execute and adjust along the way. Have do you feel like that I've been the guide in that direction since we started together?
Yes, definitely. I feel like it's been like a major, major help with stress because, like, obviously, stress is always there. But
Yes.
I feel like I'm better equipped, like whether I'm at home and I'm get like stressed out about something or I'm at work and I get stressed out about something. Now I just like I list everything out. Like, okay, this is my day. This is what I have to accomplish, right? Like, these are the
Mhm.
non negotiable things that have to fit in there. And then these are the extra things that if they happen today, they're great. And if they get pushed to tomorrow, it's not the end of the world. But it makes it so much easier when I'm like in the middle of a panic attack, being like, I don't know what to do. It makes it so much easier if I've just set it all out there.
Yeah, and you've
And that was something
established
that
the
you taught me to
discipline.
do.
Yeah, you've now established the discipline. So, like, if stress hits a fan, you can fall back on your habits and your discipline. And that's the mindless work that now you can just go into. So, I want to also acknowledge that you show up very differently. I don't know if anyone else has commented on that in your life. So the way that you show up with me, it's not so you feel in control, and I see a lot more confidence in our conversations versus when we started. Do you agree?
Yes.
um I love that. That's like my favorite thing. I feel like any of my clients, like they actually gain that confidence, but like I said, the control of their life, because like I said, your mind is the limit. So I have two more things to note before we wrap up. Second last thing being, is there anything else that you would like to share? Any setbacks, wins, emotional mindset, thoughts, questions, comments, or feedback, before I go on to the last thing?
Um, so I'd say like the setbacks and the things to struggle with are definitely like trying to juggle, like family with work, with
Mhm.
like planning out, all the meals and everything that was and training. And like that was really hard in the beginning. It's still hard now, but now I'm a bit better at being able to stop and say, like, okay, if training's not going to happen today, I can at least focus on nutrition. And if I get to, just trying to like basically plan out the week of like, this is my training days and those are not negotiable. And this is my nutrition for the day. It's made it a bit easier to
Yeah,
really just kind of stop when things get really stressful of like, this
doing
is
the
what I
best.
have to focus on.
Doing the best that you can given the circumstances is something that I teach all my clients. So just a little quiz. What is the priorities from 1 to 6? I think I have it at. What are your priorities always?
Always is family.
Yes.
Always is, yeah, family is number one. And then work, because without work, unfortunately, I could do nothing.
Yeah.
And then nutrition, and then training, and then, cardio, and then the other things that you do in your spare time.
I'm going to correct you here. So number one is you. So your sleep and stress management. Right?
Me,
Yes,
right,
because you cannot give to your family or anyone else until you take care of you, right? I
right.
feel, do you feel like you show up differently with your family now at this point in time versus pre-coaching?
Yes, I feel like I'm happier.
Yeah. So how does that affect everyone else in your life, right?
If if mom's happy, everybody's happy.
Yes. And this is something I can't relate to 100% because like I don't have family, I don't have kids, but I do number one is you always, and then your friends and family, your genuine relationships, because that's what gives you purpose in life, especially if you're a mom. I do that with my clients, right? Like me first, and then my clients, anyone in my circle, people that I care about. So just a little correction there, a little reminder for you.
Yeah.
Um, were there any other notes or things that you wanted to chat about before I go into the last little tidbit?
Um, no, I did it.
Okay, so last thing, do you have any advice to newcomers who inquire about coaching with Jas?
The beginning is always the hardest.
Okay,
Like if the first step is saying, hey, I need help, that is the hardest step. But
so
once you do that, once you sign up, it gets easier.
yes, it's taking that like, okay, I have to take responsibility for where I am and I have to work towards where I want to be, right?
Yeah.
So, Christina in month one, what would you say to her?
It gets easier, it gets better, and you are making the right call.
Oh, I love it. I love, love, love it. Okay, so that's all I have for today, unless you have anything else to share. But I want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. You mean a lot to me as a person, as a client. My clients always become my friends. So I'm proud of you, and we're going to continue this journey together. Even post coaching, we'll be in contact. Do you have anything else you want to share before I let you go?
No, I think that's everything.
Okay, thank you again. I hope you have a wonderful